Hello, hello, my friends. It is Aldo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. I'm your host, Jarod, the Dark Jedi Bachman Stubbs, and Celebration has come and gone. I was obviously in Star Wars Celebration Baton Rouge, which, if you were keeping up with the Bombad cast, saw us live breaking down some stuff down there with Scotty live in person, among other things. So we're here to do our own recap, having more information, also having somebody, a guest, a favorite guest here at the Nerd Academy, who is actually boots on the ground in London here to give us the rundown. And it is none other than my new trivia archenemy, Alden Diaz.
Wake up, babe. New Alden Diaz episode. New Alden episode just dropped. Hello. How are you, my friend? My enemy.
I'm good. I have not put this on the socials yet, but I have caught the Blue Shadow virus a second time.
Oh.
So feeling a little under the weather. I'm glad I every time I have gotten the ick at the same time that I get COVID, it could very easily be another not COVID thing. Every time that has happened,
right.
Every time I've had a COVID scare, it happens at the weirdest time. Like the first time I got COVID, it was like the seasons were changing, so I thought it was allergies.
Sure.
And then Taylor couldn't taste or smell anything. And then this one time, almost my entire family caught COVID at the same time. I had a really nasty head cold. I took 4 tests, came back negative every time.
Wow.
Which was
weird. That's the
like,
thing with
a cosmic lottery.
That's the thing with Celebration is that everybody that's coming back, some people have been negative, some people unfortunately have been positive, but it's like, is this con crud? Is this because I treated my body like garbage for 5 days, or is this the thing?
Exactly.
Or both, so you end up
a little bit of both.
category too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I woke up yesterday, like half hanging off the bed, my mouth wide open with a fan blowing directly in my face. And I was like, oh, well, that's why I have a sore throat and I'm all drainy and gross. But today, at time of record, was supposed to be my little sister's birthday. And I was like, you know what? Better safe than sorry. I'm sure I don't have it. Took 2 tests and I went, oh, shit, I do. So keep testing. COVID is still real, people.
That is true.
Do not get caught lacking. But all that aside, I'm going to try to power through. I don't feel too bad, so I think I'll be able to make it work here. Obviously, TNAP proper week have a lot of trailer talk because this is the week that all the studios said, hey, you want a trailer? And dropped all of them. So expect that later this week. But before we jump into our celebration discussion, a quick word from our lovely sponsors at SundaysBloodyMary.com. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement across the galaxy. They have their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't for you. They also have their award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, asparagus, and rim salt if you're trying to get nasty with some garnishes, and some very cute tomato-themed merch. So get on over to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout. You get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Alden.
Yes.
How was Celebration, buddy?
Oh, man. I mean, I've said often, many times for years, that Star Wars Celebration is like church, but like good and fun. And It has the energy and the mutual understanding that everyone around you at any given moment, if you were all 5-year-olds, you would play together. It's like you feel like you know them. Like it
That's
affects
really sweet.
it. Just it's just how it is. Like it affects every interaction, every fiber of everything, like even stuff that normally would be miserable, like standing in a long line for a cup of coffee and when your feet hurt and everything. Then somebody next to you is wearing like a cosplay of a character and you're like, oh, that's great. And then you end up in an entire conversation, or the fact that you can make a joke. Then everybody immediately jumps in with the same, like, the next line and the next line and the next line. And that you can't capture other places. So emotionally, just wonderful. And then for our friend group and everything, it was just so wonderful to see everybody, new friends, old, just new connections. It was just really invigorating. And then that last layer, of course, is the excitement of new Star Wars and of things that are still down the road, but that we know are on the way. And to get the announcements of 3 new films, the return of a certain Skywalker, the debut of footage from Ahsoka, both a public version and a private version, as well as a few other private trailers and things like that. It's just packed to the hills. But that first day, we left that showcase panel and we thought, I don't even know where to begin with that. Like that could have been the weekend. It was so loaded.
Yeah, that excites me a lot just to hear. I know nothing is set in stone yet, but Taylor and I are very, very strongly and seriously considering Celebration Tokyo, or Celebration Japan. And it makes my heart so happy. I know last year I'm excited I'm excited for Celebration to talk about it, because like I missed so much of it, that like watching it, because we were doing our own thing, that I've been so looking forward to picking your brain. And one of the questions I do want to ask you is, like, in terms of the announcements and stuff like that, like you said, 3 new movies, all of which felt very, I don't know. I want to say felt new, but like it felt so out of left field, the decisions that were made for the movies, in a very good way.
Yeah.
That like it's a departure from us being told, oh yeah, you'll get a movie about X-wing pilots, and it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
Where here it's the foundations of the Jedi Order, a Rey Skywalker movie, and then a Mandoverse finale.
Yeah. It's also the different from each other, right? Which I think was
Yeah.
part of what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to convey. She talked about what George told her, which is that this should always be moving forward and backward. And then that timeline comes up, and it's got a lot of the iconography and insignias that we know, and it's got a lot of the eras that we know: Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, all that. But then there's High Republic at the far left, and then further left, Old Republic, which was not talked about. They just threw that in there because they can.
Yeah.
They were just like, don't forget that era does still count. And then before that, Dawn of the Jedi, with the symbol reflecting the Prime Jedi who's in the pool, the little pebble pool on Ahch-To. So that immediately sends your mind racing. Like, is that actually going to be a character? Like, there's all that nerd stuff you could talk about.
Yeah.
But then on the other end, all the way down that way, New Jedi Order, which, for Legends fans is a phrase that has existed for us for a long time. But for it to be explicitly said, like, all questions of, well, how soon after the Skywalker saga? Nope, 15 years. We're telling you right off the bat. It's 15 years. It's Rey Skywalker. It's her order. And for Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the filmmaker who's going to be doing this film, who is a 2-time Academy Award winner, has all of this documentary experience, all of this humanitarian experience, was like a Time 100 most influential people. Like, her resume is insane. And became part of the Disney family with the 2 best episodes of Ms. Marvel. She approached it from a point of really already giving us the ideology of the conflict. Star Wars is always like, big, big, bad, tiny, tiny, good. And this feels almost like, maybe not an inverse, but a very interesting flip of the dynamic, where she was saying there are people that don't want the Jedi to come back, There are people that don't think they should. There are people that are going to question this. There are people that are going to go after it. They're going to try to destroy it. And that's a different kind of oppression. It almost feels like we're going to be back to the prequels in a certain way. Like, I don't think Rey's going to have an order 10,000 strong, but it would be interesting for her to be 15 years into the gig and be like, this is actually like going pretty well. And then it's small attacks and it's subterfuge, it's small things. It's not Star Destroyers. It's like people in your house. Like that feels really, really interesting. And then of course, present day, right in the middle of all these, is one of those weird, like, poetry it rhymes type things where George did his 2 trilogies and did the saga. George retires, he trains Dave. We know all this. But then for, Dave's relationship with us to start with an animated film that people didn't like. And then that to grow into what we have, that was with George. Now George is retired and Dave is going to link everything that they did, he did, new people did. It's just and in live action and in theaters, it's like to be a fly on the wall for that conversation between the two of them, because they talk. But it's like it was a really, really cool moment. I will say my one criticism of it is that Filoni's a rock star. We know this, especially there. Like, that's his people. It was kind of a goof to go Mangold, Filoni, Sharmeen, because people don't know Sharmeen, and she got drowned out by Filoni movie. So it wasn't like the presentation. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was just the crowds. Like, they wanted to go chronologically, and I get that, but Kathleen's like, you want to meet the 3 directors? And we were all like, yeah. And then, because at that moment, time slows down, and you're like, is Taika about to walk out? Like, what's about to happen? Who is this?
Oh man, yeah, that is a really crazy. Like, what is about? Everything slows down. Oh
yeah, God, what is about to happen? And we knew Mangold was probably in the building because of Dial of Destiny, but no one knew that he was there for 2 reasons. And so she said, James Mangold, Dave Filoni. And when she said that, the place exploded. And mid explosion, she's like, Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy. And I'm like, let's give the humanitarian, like, hero her flowers, please. And also, first woman of color on a feature. We've had Deborah Chow, of course, heading up a show as the first. There's a few different firsts in that all deserve to be celebrated. The first woman to direct any live action Star Wars is Deborah. The first woman to head up a Star Wars as a woman is Jennifer Corbett, as showrunner of Batch.
Yes.
But then live action is Deborah, but live action movie is Sharmeen now, and it's just really, really cool to see. So I was so excited about all this. I'm rambling, but even in this this panel went over. This panel was way over long. They started late and they went long. It was supposed to be a 90-minute panel. It went for like 2:15 or something like that. And
oh wow,
yeah, it was like I was like, late. Jesus, like, and I wonder if part of it was like sneaking Daisy in, because Ali Plum, the host, who you see all over UK entertainment industry content, he didn't know. And I don't think a lot of people knew. Daisy Ridley's stylist kind of did blow it the previous day, because the stylist posted who's ready for Star Wars Celebration, and that caused a rumble. But yeah, Mangold's
I didn't know that.
pitch,
that's really funny. I love
great.
the people who know to look for shit like that.
It's
like,
really funny.
It sends me back to like pre-Rise of Skywalker days, and it was still like Speculation City. And the makeup artist who like mainly worked on Adam Driver posted a picture after Wrap, and all you saw were these like makeups that was like, okay, so that's blood, that's bruises. Oh no.
Yeah. He's gonna get messed up in that third act. Yeah, it's so funny to see the way Star Wars fans are. But Mangold,
full detective mode.
Mangold coming out and describing his as, again, we got specifics, 25,000 years before the Skywalker saga. The first people that discovered the Force realized that it was there, that it could be used. The dawn of the Jedi, the very first people to do it, and that he described it as an old school biblical epic, like the 10 Commandments and things like that. Sounds I mean,
Yes, that was
oof.
my big like when it was the whole like a biblical style, like throwing out 10 Commandments, Ben Hur,
Yeah. Ben
and
Hur,
oh
yeah.
my god, like
Yeah.
what is this even going to look like? And then and that excites me so much because that is the moment you can just crank the weird up to a trillion.
Absolutely. I mean, that's when
And
you can like things that we've only gotten sprinkles of in this timeline, whether that's a Moraband thing or a Bendu thing or a whatever. All of that could just be everywhere. Like
yeah,
and what does space travel look like? What do the buildings look like? How many levels up is Coruscant? Like there's all those little questions of if any. Like is Coruscant just a
yeah,
town? Like who knows like what that even is because that's so
town
undefined
with a
now.
giant mountain nearby, you know,
Yeah,
or like,
yeah.
or even to get even more like the very specific, like nitty gritty. Like, are we going back to like force swords? Are we going proto sabers
Uh-huh.
with gigantic power cables attached to them? You
Yeah.
know, like that is fertile ground to do some really fun, weird force shit.
Absolutely. And to even show like one thing that is a Star Trek staple that Star Wars doesn't do a lot is first contact. Like
Yes.
it is this like the first time that imagine somebody who discovers the force, it's a human character and they don't know where to go, so they just like they escape some enemies and they land on Kashyyyk and it's the first time that anyone's been there. Like something like that would be so interesting. Like what is that like? You pick any species. So that was exciting. And then they're all again all exciting for completely different reasons. That's what was so powerful about it. And Dave doing this culmination, especially considering, and we'll talk about it, that the trailer for his show uses the words heir to the empire,
Yeah.
um, is like what is it even gonna be? Like what is this we know it's the culmination of the battle between the New Republic and the Imperial Remnant. That's all we know about it. But who are the, Star Wars loves trios, right? Who's the trio of this? Is it Din Ahsoka Luke? Is it is you gotta imagine like what's interesting about his project is that it's such a high stakes thing that you gotta imagine everyone that has skin in the game would be there. Like this feels almost like Avengers in a certain way.
Yes. Oh, that is such a good comparison. Absolutely. And I love that because I have been thinking about that. I'm like, well, what's the involvement of Luke and,
Hmm.
Han or, the hairiest one to consider, Leia, going to
Yeah,
be? Um, because this is such a big climactic fight. And, if Luke's willing to show up just to save the little baby, where is he going to be during this?
exactly.
So
Because
that,
it's like there's like new canon stuff that's still not defined. Like, what is Luke's relationship with his sister on a work level?
yeah,
Because he, showed up, mopped the dark troopers because a child asked for help, but he wasn't like on patrol. It's not prequel Jedi. He doesn't have a
no,
relationship with the new government. So can they do they have a relationship where it's like, hey, call me if it's serious and I'll be there? Like that's the type of stuff that we don't know. And that's what's so exciting about it. And and also you got to assume that this film will be after Mando season 4 at least, because 4 is already written. So
yes,
is this like I don't know. Like, is this the Din and Ahsoka and an army of Mandalorians at their back? Bo-Katan, like just everybody versus Thrawn. How does Ezra come into play here? Um, it's yeah, this is a lot, but it's
yeah.
the thing that everybody's been begging for, right? Everybody wanted that, as Scotty Jarod called it, climactic story event. Um, so yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the thing that I love about like that heir to the empire name drop, that could be cool fan service, naughty word. Uh or that could be teeing up the movie.
yeah,
I've heard rumblings that Ray Stevenson's character in Ahsoka, whose name escapes me at the moment,
it's
could
like
be like
Balin, I
a
believe.
Balin something or other. That this Balin guy could be like our new Jeru Sabaoth, but like not directly Jorah Sabaoth, but like a
Yeah,
reinterpolation of that. And that's
who
what
would
excites
fill
me so
what
much about
roles?
this. Yeah, and that's what intrigues me so much about this new era, or the new era of Star Wars, but like this storytelling venture is that they can do what the MCU has so famously done, which is like take elements and kind of like remix them. You know, like my favorite example is like when I'm telling people, like, you know, I love Avengers Age of Ultron. You know what happens in the Age of Ultron comics and the movie are very different things. Namely, not a whole lot of time travel or Wolverine. And that's without even broaching the Hank Pym, Tony Stark of it all.
Yeah.
I'm so down for like an adaptation of Heir to the Empire. And I say that as somebody who's like halfway through the book for the first time. Because like there's been all these rumblings about like, you know, Thrawn's coming back. I'm like, well, I want to go back to the source. I want to go to the original. And now I am even more incensed to get through. But yeah, I think this is so fascinating. You know, we don't, again, the Balin guy, we don't know what role he's going to play moving forward. He and his apprentice Shin could go down for the count in Ahsoka, or they could become like another like big plot thread villain moving forward.
And I will say that in the version of the Ahsoka trailer that was not released, which is mostly the same but has extra shots, it's just longer. Sabine and Shin duel, and Sabine has Ezra's green because he left it with her.
Yeah.
Whoo! Oh, it looked good.
I saw that leak out, and obviously there was like Ethron Musk that got out, which looks so funny.
The big shot of the Purrgil.
Oh, I didn't see the Purrgil was out there. That's interesting.
Yeah, Ahsoka and Sabine are in a shuttle, and they fly, and they like do like a big turn, and then like they're approaching like the mouth of the Purrgil as they go toward it.
Wow, that is awesome. But yeah, I all of these announcements just blew my top off. And I think my favorite one, even though we have trailers for Ahsoka and stuff, and that like Ahsoka is the most real thing, I don't think there was a single announcement that excited me more than the Rey NJO movie.
Same here. Like,
it makes my heart, as a sequel trilogy, like ride or die. You know, I don't want to feed into a lot of like fandom discourse narrative stuff where the sequels came out, it was also divisive, a lot of that divisiveness being astroturfed in some ways. But it's so divisive that Lucasfilm was like, you know what, we're just going to let this lie for a while and move on and do other stuff. And for a while, you know, it did feel like the sequel trilogy wasn't getting its flower that it deserved. And them doubling down and going, oh, no, here's a whole movie for Rey Skywalker. And Daisy is coming back. And just all like Daisy coming back is what really, really floored me. And we were talking about it on the Bombad cast live all together, and it was so exciting. But as Taylor and I were packing up from our hotel room in Baton Rouge, where I put on the closing ceremonies from Celebration, and watching the like recap at the beginning when they touched on the Rey movie, like I started crying. It was just so overwhelming. Like, this character's back, you know, and if this character's back, maybe we get Finn back, maybe we get Poe back, you know, and I'm not going to hold my breath for another character that I may or may not have a tattoo of to come back. But he could.
Look, who in a position of leadership in the history of the Jedi has not occasionally sought counsel from someone gone? You know, are you going to get this man to come back and throw on the black and actually do a 2-hour film? I would be shocked if that were to happen. But could you get this man in Manhattan Beach for a day and get him to record a scene and then put a blue filter on him later? Yes. Yeah, you could. And so we'll see about that. But the Finn of it all, right? Like, it's almost like a sliding scale, like who's most likely. And Finn's right there. You got to imagine that he's a part of it. We'll see sort of how it's handled. We'll see how many students she has and things like that. But the fact that it was just so explicit about what it was, that Daisy was there, that this will be, you know, I love Ryan and JJ. But this is the first time that Rey will be handled by a woman filmmaker. And that somebody that can really get into her head in that way that men just can't, especially a Rey who is 35 by that point, because she's 19, then she's 20, and and so a 35-year-old Rey who's at the peak of her power and has to hold it together, and we are what they grow beyond. Like, what is she doing now differently than Luke did, than the prequels did, etc. So that is just so exciting. And like you said, just I've always cautioned people that even when it seemed like, the sequel era was being like lesser than in their eyes than the TV stuff, I get it, but it's like, remember that it took a few years before Clone Wars. Remember the big gaps. Remember all that stuff. And when you consider all the gaps we've had and everything and how long it's taken for certain things, looking at my clock right here, it's April 15th as we record this, 2023, hasn't even been a full 4 calendar years and she's back. So that's, in Star Wars, that's actually the quickest return of anything.
You're
I think
not
just
wrong.
The internet
You're
just makes
wrong.
it feel so long.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's just, I don't know. There's a cynicism is the deadliest plague on the planet,
Absolutely.
and you try so hard to let the things you like not get swallowed up by these overly negative narratives, and seeing this come through, and the many bones I have to pick with the fandom menace and its many thought leaders. The victory lap a lot of people are trying to do, myself included in many ways, is also a double-edged sword in and of itself. We proved them wrong, everybody. Rey's getting a movie. As I have always said, a lot of the Lucasfilm is going to decanonize the sequels, and Kathleen Kennedy will be tried in The Hague. Naya also does not like to hear about this stuff.
That is true.
All of that stuff, as tinfoil hat as it is, the people who believe it aren't going to change their minds now that it has been fully refuted. The same way there are so many holdouts who know that the election will be overturned any day now.
It's true. It's coming.
It is coming indeed. But that said, moving on from the movie announcements for a moment, we did talk a little bit about it, but Ahsoka, we did get finally got a trailer for Ahsoka. You mentioned that we got, you guys got an extended version of the trailer. Extra shot of Thrawn. I knew about the Shin and Sabine duking it out one, because I found that one on Twitter and loved it. There's something great about Sabine with a lightsaber.
It's awesome.
Everybody always does the whole thing about like, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi in Mandalorian armor. Oh my god. I don't give a damn about Obi-Wan and Mando armor. I love when Sabine picks up a lightsaber.
It's great. It's great because that's the way that
crowd pop.
That's, to me, emotionally, that's the way that Kanan gets to be a part of this.
Yes.
Because she got those skills from him, and that really just does the heart good. And just, I'm still recovering, everyone. I'm still recovering from seeing Natasha. We got her in Anaheim, we got the back of her head and that was it. But to see her now in the armor, and then in this new look that no one expected, long hair Sabine, with just a flight jacket and some work clothes, like she's looking at her helmet. It looks like maybe after she took up guard duty on Lothal, she just maybe lost her mojo and stayed there sad. So now it's like, I'm jumping straight into prediction here, which I don't normally do, but it just feels so right. Dave is such an aficionado for the classical beats. Like, he loves this is what that means, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we're homaging. Very George in that way. He gave Kanan that, like, with the knife and everything, and then cutting the ponytail off before he died. The change of hair always means something. If you look at long hair Sabine, she's talking to Ahsoka in the gray cloak. This is not Ahsoka the White. There's been no footage of Ahsoka the White yet. So we also don't know when that Rebels epilogue is, which, as Dave has said, it could be any time. I think we will get to the Rebels epilogue in this show, maybe 2/3 of the way through the season or something like that. Because if you look at Sabine's long hair, the dark purple's on the top. It's multicolor. The dark purple is up here. And so it makes me think that Ahsoka, as the white. They will both sort of have like a get their groove back type thing. And Sabine's going to have a full on fucking Mulan moment. And I'm going to start crying. And she's going to cut the hair off and open up the thing and grab her armor and like put it back on. And I'm going to lose it. I'm going to cry. It's going to be big.
That is really interesting. I love all of the speculation about when the Rebels epilogue takes place, because that never ever super like crossed my mind
that there was time.
I always kind of assumed that like that happened like right after the Empire fell.
See, that's what I always thought too, Jared.
Be it Endor.
That's what I always thought too, Jared. But then it was right in front of us. And you know why? It's the thing that everyone forgets about that epilogue. It's right there in front of all of our noses. Can you guess what I'm about to say? Because once I say it, you're like, oh yeah. Lothal's capital turns into fucking Metropolis. When the camera is over by the water, it's like a sterling, pointy, amazing city. And it never dawned on me that like, that would take some time. And so like once I realized that, I was like, oh yeah. Because you're like, oh, Sabine got a haircut, she got a new armor, whatever. That doesn't take time. But I think we'll see like her on guard, et cetera. They'll touch base with each other a few times. But the thing about this show, if you're a big nerd and you're paying attention online, the production code names for these shows, Mandalorians is what, Huckleberry, Boba Fett's is Buccaneer, Pirate Rodeo, I forget, was for Skeleton Crew. This production code name for this one, and you can see some people wearing the crew hats and shirts and everything, is Stormcrow, which is one of Gandalf's names in the Tolkien mythology.
Wow, that's fucking cool. That's fucking cool.
And it's so Dave, but that makes me feel like the transition from the gray cloak to the white cloak happens in the show. And it's going to be amazing.
So you think we get like a brand new look for Ahsoka too by the end of this? Like the combat ready version of Ahsoka the White.
Yeah, or even just like, because Ahsoka the White, like hood up with the staff, but like underneath there is still sort of like a tunic-y type looking, it's only a 2-second shot of her that we've all been looking at for 5-6 years now. But so I that set my mind racing. But then just everything else that we see. I mean, like the first look at Ezra's in this trailer, it's 2 seconds and he's tiny, but he's there. And they translated. I mean, after
he has not changed his clothes yet at all.
No, after seeing Zeb a few weeks ago, I'm no longer ever going to question them in terms of can they translate it to live action. That conversation ended with Zeb. They can do anything. They managed to make Ezra's cheesy ass orange little jumpsuit look like normal clothes. They can do anything. Hera Chopper, amazing. The actual Kevin Kiner music, Kiner doing live action, is only fitting that he would come with, that was beautiful.
I really hope. I don't know where I fall on it, because I love Ludwig so much. Yeah. I loved Ludwig before he was one of Hollywood's favorite composers, when he was still mostly like a hip hop producer, which I've talked about a lot. Everybody knows, big Childish Gambino fan. So like part of me is split, because the Mandoverse stuff has been so Ludwig's, like some of his best work. Like so many of those iconic themes were, but part of me also wants Dave's first live action movie to be a Kiner joint as well. Like I haven't made up my mind on who I want to do the music for Dave's movie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens too, because they're going to carry themes no matter what. So I feel like Ludwig will still be a part of it, even if it's like music supervising or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this trailer is just incredible. I mean, it was surreal to see from the second that the red Lucasfilm logo popped up. The cinematography looks great. The choreography looks great. The Ray Stevenson, those like really stiff lightsaber movements when he's in the hallway. Dude's just unfazed. All of that is great. Seeing Mothma in there. Really, really cool. Very excited to see Genevieve continue to get stuff. And one of the senators off to the side is Senator Ziono, who's got to be Kaz's dad, Kaz from Resistance, which is very, very cool. Just everything about this just felt like, how is this real? But also, it felt right. It just felt natural. It felt big. It just feels like the culmination of everything that Dave's been building toward, even before he knew he was building toward it.
Absolutely. And like we also get like such an interesting shot with like what looks like the world between worlds with like Balin and Ahsoka getting ready to scrap. Which really excites me. I kept pointing this out on the Bombadcast live stream together. I'm gonna point it out again. Whenever Ahsoka looks like her back is against the wall, she sticks her foot out. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see her do some kind of like ridiculous like prequel style wall run. Or do some type of weird kickflip. Either way, she's about to do something fucking insane, and I cannot wait for that specific beat in their fight.
She's already started to put like the style on it, man. I mean, even the opening with the sabers in the ground, spinning them with the force and fall through, when she cuts the glass and jumps out and everything, like this feels like big. It feels like really dynamic, and the color palette feels very like heightened, sort of Rebels-esque, and it just it's so surreal to be able to talk about it, because it feels like we've known about it now for 3 years, and for it to actually just be a thing and to look this good. And Dave, like, it's not like Dave was just like some wunderkind, like just immediately knew what to do in live action. He had to learn, and to see his growth from like Mando season 1 episodes to this, it's like, Jesus, dude, like the way that he's picked this up, with George as his teacher and Favreau as his main support system, has been incredible. And the directors that are on this show, my God, they've got Geeta Patel, who did my favorite episode of House of the Dragon, the Lord of the Tides, Viserys' last episode, and I'm so excited for this. I really am. And the way that this show could potentially go on. Rosario already joked like, "Oh, maybe season 2," and Dave just kind of laughed it off. Like, who knows?
Yeah, I am super blown away. My only like concern with Ahsoka, and this is a very specific like weird gripe I have with the way Ahsoka moves in live action, mostly in The Jedi. She looks like she's on wires in a kung fu movie while everybody else moves completely different from her. And we still get a little bit of that in the trailer. And I don't know if it's like or something I'm not used to. Because after watching it for a whole show of Ahsoka kind of doing, it looks like she's on wires. She almost looks like she's moving like she's in a Spider-Man video game, if that makes sense. In the same way that when you jump in a Spider-Man game, like you just kind of stay in suspended animation longer, for obvious reasons. But other than that, that very tiny, stupid fucking complaint, or concern, for lack of a better term. Like you said, I can't believe this is real. We're gonna get live action Thrawn. There's all these dark Jedi between Balin and like what looks like an Inquisitor.
How do you feel about the not red orange blades that they have?
I think it's interesting. I get mixed feelings about the idea of like a color belonging to a faction, or a color having some deeper meaning beyond like how it came into being. Like I still have to explain to a lot of my friends who get their Star Wars deep lore information, not from the source, but from YouTubers, who will be like, well, the blue lightsaber crystal represents da 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 da. And I said, no, the blue lightsaber crystal represents that it's blue. And obviously, I like to get into the symbolism of everything, but a lot of that is like fanon stuff that is a holdover from KOTOR, where even that was more of like a choose your class type thing, and that like that is stuck around. You can unpack the color theory of everything, and I love to do that. So all of that to say, I'm excited to see what looks like orange lightsabers in canon on the screen, aside from just our only appearance being Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor soon down the road. But I'm excited to see what it's all about. I've seen people kicking around the idea that this is like the first time we're going to see synthetic lightsaber crystals,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
that's why it's creating, because it also doesn't look like a normal, like aside from the color being off,
It also doesn't have white in the
like,
middle.
yeah, it's not as like predominantly as, at least as it's supposed to. So I like the idea that it's a synthetic crystal, and because of that, that's why it looks weird. Because I was like, well, maybe it's just a weird looking red, and then by the end of the trailer, we see Ahsoka fighting what looks like an Inquisitor, and that is a red blade. That
Yeah.
is like, I'm trying to find something red around me, and I'm not. But like this classical like red lightsaber, you know, that's what Darth Maul had. That's red. Oh, yeah, very, very, very excited for all that. And like you said, also like the fucking movie looks so good. Like that little bit visitor where Ahsoka kind of like pieces the guy up and then hits him with that force push.
Oh, so good. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, just it's actually a nice natural segue, if you'll permit me to mention a piece of footage that was not released, just so I could just hype you up as a fight choreography guy, and much like myself, who enjoys the influence. So the Acolyte footage, I'm not encouraging anyone to go look for it. I'm not encouraging any leaks, but I am saying that if you see that footage in a dark alley, I'd give it a hug, because my God, that footage. So Leslie comes out, she's talking to Kathleen. They have a really sweet relationship. It seems like Leslie almost cried talking about how because Kathleen said, I saw the first 4. And I loved them, and I'm so impressed with you and everything. And they just had this really sweet moment on stage together. And then Leslie starts talking about the pitch. And this is the first time she'd ever described her pitch. And you hear a lot of this in Hollywood, right? Us fans do it, of like, if I did it, it would be this meets this, this meets this. And Leslie said, I pitched to Kathleen, Frozen meets Kill Bill. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
That is what that means. That is what that means.
Sensational. That's his word.
I missed him. Yeah. So it's just like then they start talking about like martial arts films and like these wuxia films and all and like just this choreography and everything. And then they show the footage. And again, it's not plot heavy because it's too far out for that. But it's a full teaser trailer, and it is gorgeous. Like gorgeous. Like probably just on a visual standpoint, my favorite looking thing of the TV. And it has Carrie-Anne Moss, who, you know, for those playing at home, in The Matrix, and Jessica Jones, and many other things. And she gets into this fight with who you're assuming is Amandla, but they've got like headgear on and stuff. And it has like this.
You cut out for a second. She gets into a fight with who?
With Amandla Stenberg's character.
Oh, okay.
We're assuming, but they've got like a weird like sort of like mask on and stuff, so it's not clear entirely.
Okay.
But there is like it basically goes, you know how when like martial arts films naturally move into sort of like side scrolly, like 2D, like sort of, it does one of those, but with like force pushes and moves and like all this stuff, and it gets like intense. And you see this Jedi giving a speech to all these little younglings. There's different younglings, different species, and there's these different climates and all this stuff. And then it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until, and you see a yellow lightsaber in there. And then the very final shot of the trailer is one Jedi with a bunch of Jedi at their back. They turn on their lightsaber, and then like 14 more turn on at the same time, like all behind them. And it was probably the closest I felt to like Geonosis since I was 6 years old. It looks amazing, dude. This is gonna be. And then we found out later at the High Republic panel, Leslie Headland's wife, actually, performer actress Rebecca Henderson, is going to play Vernestra Rowe as an elder Jedi, which gives us a little bit of, I don't know how long Mary Allens live, so you could always play with that a little bit, but it gives us a bit of more of a time frame. And I'll tell you, Vern has the purple light whip. If we get this choreography with a whip, it's going to be insane.
So allow me to just reiterate.
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
Correct. That is correct.
So the fight you're describing, was this like a force duel, or was it like blade to blade, like lightsaber?
It was a force duel because you get the impression that it was happening on the sly. Like somebody was spying on somebody and then it started to escalate.
Okay. Okay. What really fascinates me, again, and I think it's interesting because I did see that there's a new logo for the Acolyte.
Yes. It's way less Hot Topic.
Well, it's way less Hot Topic, but when we first got the original logo for the Acolyte, it quite literally looked like a red lightsaber just cut through it.
Right.
And this one looks more High Republic-y.
Very elegant, yeah.
But there's still that like sinister red color,
which is sort of like what they described. Like Leslie was saying, most Star Wars is bad is the establishment and good is trying to be on on the rise. This is, we're going to follow the perspective of our villains, but it's not a good time to be a villain. There's Jedi at every corner. Get your ass beat if you look at them sideways. Like, you cannot just be dark siding right now.
No,
this is the golden era. And so to flip it, it just felt so like this is as close as we've gotten to seeing outside, unless you read High Republic comics, of course, but like in live action, for over 1,000 generations, like that's what this trailer felt like. That's what it felt like.
That excites me so much. And the fact that, like, from what you're saying, we have not seen those, like obviously, like we see everybody's the fight you're talking about, but like, I can only assume that our villains are Sith. Like that, the Sith acolyte is such a particular term, that like the word acolyte is very, very, to my knowledge, never used in terms with relation to the Jedi. So I love this idea that we're going to be seeing like the fucking dark side underground, and that, I'm so excited. I started talking about that Rey movie and the Ahsoka show, and then I went, oh yeah, I forgot that the Acolyte is also going to just change me as a person.
Yep. Looks amazing. They showed that.
I'm so excited.
They showed the trailer for Skeleton Crew, which looks so interesting and so sweet, and everything they've said about Goonies and E.T. and all that. Immediately, you get that vibe. You see like a house in Star Wars, like a house like on the ground, which is like you don't really see a lot of that. With like a forest and these kids, like you get, I don't know why they run away, but get the idea that they run away. And there's all these just incredible visuals. One of the kids is an Ortolan, Max Rebo's species, which is adorable. He looks so cute. God. And then it all builds and builds and builds and builds. You see Vane, the Nikto pirate who just escaped Din and Bo-Katan mopping up Gorian's crew. And it all builds until they meet Jude Law, and Jude Law does a little force pull, and one of the kids goes, "He's a Jedi," and then that's how the trailer ends.
That makes me my hair stand up. Just that wonder of a child going, "He's a Jedi."
Yeah.
Oh my god,
insane.
I'm like getting choked up. Just that description got to me. Wow, he's a Jedi.
Yeah. It's so sweet, dude, and it just looks great.
What's the release window on Skeleton Crew?
I think that could probably make like Christmas. Like they didn't say. Ahsoka's the only thing that got a date, but Skeleton is like
yeah. Time out, just going back to Ahsoka real quick. The fucking date for Ahsoka stunned me.
August. Yeah. It's like right there.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, sorry guys, we forgot to mention this comes out in a couple months." See you.
Yeah, they're going straight from Mando season 3 into Indiana Jones into Ahsoka. Boom, boom, boom. Like They're just living right now. So I think Skeleton could probably make that like Book of Boba Fett slot where it starts at the end of this year and finishes next year. That feels right. But I'll tell you, man, every time they downplayed it, like, we still have a lot of work to do. Most of that was Andor season 2. Andor season 2 doesn't come out until late next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that comes out at the end of 24, right?
Yeah, late next year. I think they're aiming for that September slot again.
Ugh,
And what they showed was a complete trailer. They were like, we're still working on this. Tony was like, I'm working on this. Like, as of yesterday, I was meeting some of the directors and like, we're out there at Pinewood. Like, we really don't have a lot. They showed a whole fucking trailer. It was a full trailer with finished VFX. Like, it looked so good. And it's Cassian in the spy game now. Like, the trailer ends with Cassian with his hair slicked back, like in a disguise, and he's like at a bar and he turns and he winks. It's like sexy. Like it, like woo! It looks so good.
So, question.
Uh-huh.
I heard talk that Kino Loy shows up in the trailer.
I didn't see Kino in the trailer, and I'm not saying those people are wrong. I just didn't see him. But Andy was brought out for the season 2 cast. I don't know if that was just because he's here.
Oh, I might be misunderstanding that then. Okay, cool.
They were like,
that
let's
makes
talk about
me
Andor
happy.
season 2, and they brought everyone out, and Andy was there. So
I've been sincerely worried about Kino Loy.
I hope Kino's around. But yeah, that looks great. Everything looked great. Everything looked great, man. Everything looked great. The indie trailer, which they then released, was great. And then James Mangold was like, we can't show the whole movie because it's going to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yes.
But why don't we watch like 2 to 3 minutes of it? And then he was like, why don't we watch like 6 to 7 minutes of it? And we watched the entire chase sequence from the middle of the film.
The train.
Not the train,
or is it where they're going through like the World War II? Like, woo.
It's the one like them go. Not that either. It's the one where they're like hanging on the hood of the cars and it's like in broad daylight.
Oh, okay.
We watched that whole sequence and goddamn, that is an Indiana Jones movie if I've ever seen one. It felt perfect, and that's something we didn't talk about with Mangold, which is like people. And I'm not gonna go on an hour-long rant litigating how people don't understand what an announcement is versus what a report is, but people out there, for whatever reason, sliding scale of rage, will be like, oh, Lucasfilm and directors, James Mangold just made one for them.
Yeah.
So that tells you like his experience must have been good if he's like, I'm going to work with you again. So like that gives me so much confidence in their relationship. And also we've seen Mangold made a really, 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 really good film and then a phenomenal film in the Fox X-Men climate. I think that guy can work under pressure and with
yeah. I don't think we talk enough about how that man made Logan.
Yep.
At the same time that the Fox men rebooted between movies every movie.
Yep. Yeah. So he just gets it, and that indie stuff was great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about the trailers in specific that I wanted to say, but they're just so pure. Like I can't wait for them to get out. They all feel so distinct. The technology just gets better and better and better. It's getting like harder to spot the volume really like at all. These Acolyte and Skeleton Crew trailers are going to throw people in terms of what is stagecraft and what's not.
Wow.
I think we're heading toward the end of that conversation. I really think we are. It's like kind of fucked up at this point. Like Mando season 3, I think looks great, but Mando season 4, which they didn't really talk about because they're still not done with 3, was great. And then of course the other thing they did was they showed us the beginning of this past episode and then said come back at 5:00 and watch the whole thing. So we all had to watch Paz Vizsla get got, and then not tell anybody.
Oh man. So another question with the showcase, just to clear something up. This will be coming out tomorrow, so a few days before season 3 gets to wrap up. What did Rick Famuyiwa say about Mando tying up plot threads from Book of Boba?
I don't remember that quote. I know it was brought up. Like
that was something I heard floating around. Was like, oh, like either the next episode or the finale is going to tie up a loose thread from Boba Fett.
And I wonder what that could be. I don't remember. I know Book of Boba Fett was brought up because they were talking about the story, and they would be like, season 1, season 2, book. But I mean, just on like a fan level, just trying to be a nerd about it, I'm not sure what could happen with that. But
My whole thing has been that they just call in shooters and that
I
Moff
hope,
Gideon is about to get
man.
jumped. But that's also been my answer to the season 2 finale is blank character is about to get jumped. It was
Could you imagine
Moff
how
Gideon still, but
imagine how hype it would be if like Gideon like unmasks Din and is about to like try to like shoot him in the face, then all of a sudden you hear the fat dun 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 dun, dun. Like I just missed that theme.
You
can bring him in for nothing.
Just kick down the door.
That's my friend.
Oh my god! Something in the name of honor. Here's my knee dart, motherfucker.
Dude, I need the knee dart pose again.
Dude, I love the Boba Fett work bitch.
That's exactly what it is.
That is what I called it when that episode came out. I yelled when I was rewatching Mando and Boba for season 3. I yelled, "Work, bitch!" Whenever again he just went, "Tuh," and it was the best shit ever. I love Star Wars.
It's so cool.
Another thing that you got to see that we have, I think you got to see that we have, as us laymen didn't get. What did you see any of the Bad Batch stuff?
Yes, yeah, I was at the Bad Batch panel. Obviously, we talked a lot about season 2 because it just ended, but then at the end they said we're coming back for a third and final season, so they're going to wrap it on 3. It does not feel like third and final, like we're canceled, because then you see the trailer and you're like, oh yeah, this was
third and final. This was the plan.
This was the plan. Yeah, that trailer again. Animation has such a big lead time that it was a very full trailer. Omega and Crosshair. It looks like probably the amount of time that went by between seasons 1 and 2 goes by again. Omega looks a little bit older, tiny bit. Interestingly, though, she doesn't look like a prisoner. They're treating her better than Crosshair. It looks like she has like a little science uniform and her hair is like parted. And like Crosshair looks like shit, dude. My dude's going through it. He looks like he lost. he looks like he lost weight. He's in handcuffs.
He's looking rough, bro. He's not.
He's like, it's bad times for him. And there's a really beautiful moment where Omega's trying to reach him, and she says like, you're my brother. I need you. And he just like loses it. He's like, I'm not them. Like, it's like Buddy's at his wit's end. It's like scary. And you see Wolf, you see Fennec Shand, you see big ass kaiju. There's
big ass kaiju like nondescript kaiju or like Zillo Beast kaiju?
Nondescript. Yeah, there's a few like Wreckers. Like there's one that's like this big maw underneath them, like an unidentified thing. It's not a Sarlacc. It's not something that we've seen, I don't think. And Wreckers like something. Why does it always have to be a giant monster? And then they do like a little super cut real quick of like a bunch of them. And it just looks, it looks really, really, really metal and grim. And I mean, it starts with Palpatine. Like Palpatine goes to Mount Tannis and is walking with Hemlock and is telling him like, like your work has been a great service to the Empire, Doctor. Like it's like really goth metal shit. Ian McDermott doing some of his best work in Batch. He's just so good. And yeah, it just gave you so much to chew on in terms of flavor. But what's interesting, I think the thing that everybody talked about the most is Wolf, because Wolf being there is like, we know the end game of Rex Wolf Gregor retired, alone, broken in the desert until the Ghost Crew finds them. Like, is this going to be a total, what's the RPG term for when all players die?
Total party kill, TPK.
Yeah. This is going to be TPK and only Rex Wolf Gregor are around by the end. And that are the events of this going to be what makes them give up? I don't know, but it looks so good.
Going back to what I was saying before about like how everything feels like it is, not everything feels like, but like how like the Heir to the Empire stuff could very well be a reinterpolation of an older story. Yeah. I thought season 1 of the Bad Batch was heading towards that iconic, grim Battlefront 2, OG Battlefront 2 campaign mission. And even though Camino has already sunk, Topeka City has already sunk, I think we're still headed towards that, like, the Empire is going to do something horrible to stamp out a clone rebellion. Which I don't think any of us are emotionally prepared for.
Yeah. And the lingering thread too of Omega Boba Fett, like that they're Alpha and Omega. Like, what happens there? Is he going to be in this season? Does he know about her by the time of book? When he's Daimyo, does he know about his sister? And there's just so much potential there. But it seems like they have a really clear idea of what they want. They've been really, really relentless. Season 2 was full of all-time Star Wars episodes, and the feeling at this panel was like mournful for Tech and for Crosshair, and just talk about oppression and fascism, but also Omega's growth and things. And Nikki Kumar, one of our friends and one of my partners on what I do, made some great points where he's like, you ever realize that they kind of teed us up to lose Tech every time that him and Omega had a moment? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, the season starts with Tech's homework lessons. Then there's, Tech's understanding of the world. And then there's Omega learns how to drive the family car and do Tech's drift, the Tick-Tin. Like, there's like all these things.
Drift, as I like to call it.
Yeah, Techio drift. Exactly. Like, it was kind of always there. And I feel like with that growth now is like, by the end of this, is she going to be this amalgam of all of her brothers? I mean, she's a precision range shooter with her bow. She's got all the tech stuff. Even in season 1, she was kind of a mimic a little bit with like Hunter would do his little signals and things. And then Wrecker, it's like mostly personality and like liking the same snacks and things like that. But
snacks, she's very forthright like Wrecker is too.
Yeah. So she sort of is like a piece of all of them. And it just, it's going to make me real sad when more of them get deaded.
More of them get deaded. That's fantastic. Bringing up the tail end here, not that this is any less than the other announcements. We also got a lot from the publishing panels and the High Republic panel. Obviously, we mentioned the Vernestra Rowe stuff. Were you at any of these, Alden?
Yeah, I went to part of the High Republic one. We were running around a lot that day, so I had to dip out. So I didn't get the Vern news in public. In person, I mean. Saw about it right after, but in the publishing I was not there for, but I heard some exciting things about it. Again, the Star Wars publishing and comic side is kind of unbeatable. Like, it's just hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
And what they do with the synergy and with the initiatives has been so great to see. And it's so cool to see High Republic is now filling the main room of the convention, where before it would that panel was at a medium-sized room, and now it's like it's a fucking rock concert, which is great.
Yeah, so we got sneak peeks at timelines, which is really interesting. I'm looking through the Star Wars Newsnet article. Well, first we got stuff from 100 Objects, which featured the Nemix Manifesto, like that carving in the wall. Naya, I am excited for this book too. But we got like the carving from that wall, from the safe house with the Quinlan Voss, or they mentioned Quinlan Voss, but it's like the Jedi symbol etched into it. We also have from Star Wars Timelines, which I'm excited for, that has shop pages. They also had the High Republic Character Encyclopedia, which comes out on November 7th, which, as a High Republic diehard, I need desperately.
Yeah.
And cannot wait to have. It has 2 pages from it that shouts out Avar Kriss and the galaxy's biggest rat bastard, Markion Rowe.
He does fit that really perfectly. Rat bastard can't be used for everybody. You have to be a particular brand of sniveling.
Yeah, he's a rat bastard verging on rat fuck.
Leaning. He's a cusp. He's on
the cusp of rat fuck. Wait till phase 3. See how much of a rat fuck Marchion Ro is. A term I learned from Roger Stone. We also got stuff from Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, that we will be seeing a story from Kristen Baver about Cy Snoodles. And Adam Christopher will be talking about General Pride, which is very exciting. Yes. There also was the panel rehashed Dark Horse's Tales from the Death Star, from Young Jedi Adventures and Crimson Climb, an upcoming young adult novel about Kira in Crimson Dawn. We also got looks at Star Wars The Ultimate Cookbook, another Star Wars cookbook. I own the Galaxy's Edge one, so I'm excited to see what's in this guy. And we also got another Secrets of for the Wookiees that has a really fun Life Day scene on it, as well as Gungi, Buryaga. And on the cover is, surprisingly, Connor Chikiti's favorite Wookiee, Tarful. And speaking of Connor, we also have the Art of Jedi Survivor due at the end of the year.
I love Art of books, man. They're the best.
I know. I want to own all of them. I want to own every single one.
I almost have them all. What am I missing? It's the High Republic one that I don't have. And the Galaxies. I don't have the Galaxies. Galaxy's Edge.
Jumping over to friend of the show, Alex Damon of Star Wars Explained. Charles, he was at the High Republic panel where he said they talked Young Jedi Adventures and everybody loves nubs. Charles Soule teases the next Blade comic and the possibility of Barish popping up again, ? George Mann, would it really be a High Republic story if everybody made it out alive? Kevin Scott, no.
No.
Still beefing with Kevin Scott. And Claudia Gray. You killed one of my favorite characters. I got beef with both of them.
I told Claudia last year at Anaheim, she walked by me and I said, "Excuse me, Claudia." She said, "Yeah." I said, "I just wanted to say, big fan. And I really, really loved The Fallen Star. And the biggest compliment I can give you is that you killed my number one High Republic character, Orla, but still did it in such a way that I still loved it." And she was like, "That is the goal."
The next time anybody who is good at doing interviews has Claudia Gray on, yeah. I need somebody to share the story that I was at work by myself when I got to the end of The Fallen Star and started crying so hard I almost fell to my knees behind the bar.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. We've talked about it. The Stellan Geos with sheer biceps.
Here's the lightsaber.
Just, oh, man, putting the lightsaber and then just, woo, amazing. He was our North Star.
We need to stop talking about it. Lydia Kang, Star Wars Celebration is the best book release party I could have ever asked for. Kevin Scott's Path of Vengeance. We'll explore what's going on with the mother. That's not an ominous title at all. I don't know why they gave it to me. Quote from Kevin Scott. The fucking goat Daniel Jose Older. Almost said DJ Jose Older. Daniel Jose Older. His Edge of Balance precedent will be more central to the overall story than the previous two High Republic manga issues. There's some art they asked us to not take pictures of, but it's a pretty shocking and scary look at the Jedi. Oh no. Alyssa Wong is joining the writing team. The crowd in here is super funny. So many gasps and cheers and screams. Ha ha ha. They all went over stories and tales of light and life, and they all sound intriguing, but it's time for Phase 3 talk. Phase 3 will begin this fall and begins 1 year after the fall of Starlight Beacon. Starting October, to be specific, they released a lot of titles, but not the first title. And it looks like Wave 1 will end in March of 2024. There will be 3 adult novels in Phase 3. Charles Soule is writing the last one, which makes me happy that the High Republic will kind of be bookended by the works of Mr. Charles Soule. Looks like the High Republic Publishing Initiative ends in spring of 25. James Waugh, this is just the beginning for the High Republic. We are going to see something. Leslie Headland is here. I'm watching this happen in real time in text. This is very funny. Yeah. Leslie is praising the Star Wars book so hard. She talks about how important the books are to her fandom growing up and how much it meant to her to honor what the High Republic has authors have created. In all caps, Vernestra Rowe is going to be in the Acolyte. So yeah, that
Insanity.
is the High Republic panel. All in all, honestly, this is a very big Star Wars celebration. I'm so happy, Alden, you came by to talk about your experiences there.
Of course.
While we were engaging in debauchery here in Baton Rouge.
I'm sure you were all very tame.
Oh yeah. Did you see the video Scotty put in Goon Squad earlier of me during getting jiggy with it?
Yeah, of course I did.
The joke that was made during the wedding was because I told Scotty, so I helped film the live stream. And after we were done, Scotty was like, "Hey man, thank you so much." He hugged me and then he whispered right into my ear. He said, "I want you to get fucking devastated tonight." I had orders from the groom to drink like it was the end of the world.
That's disrespectful at that point. You have to do it as an act of respect and love.
Exactly. So all night I was drinking double Crown and Cokes and doing shots of Cuervo between them. And at one point I looked at Scotty and I was like, "Hey," because it was kind of a short reception, all things considered. And I was like, "Hey, I need you to make sure they play Getting Jiggy with it." Because we were coming up on time. And I'm standing at the bar. I was getting ready to do shots with either Trey or Bill. I can't remember whom. And then that like hits, and I fucking sprinted from the bar that was in the corner of the room, and Scotty like teleported in front of me. And I guess as I am off to do at weddings at this point, I went so hard during Getting Jiggy with it that all the photographers and videographers turned to me, and per one Trey Mitchell, they made a music video of me. Which I look forward to seeing in full. But Alden, any last thoughts here to wrap up our celebration talk?
I know I'm just so excited about the state of Star Wars right now. I think it's hilarious that it can still do all this despite being dead. I think that's really impressive. Rest in peace to the grift, because we're living. This is a great time, beautiful time. The variety is the spice of life, and not a single thing that they showed tickled me in the same way, but they all just emotionally affected me. So I'm thrilled.
That, my friends, is the power of the. I'm going to get ready to Venmo Alden here. The tapestry of Star Wars. No, I agree with everything you just said. It all feels so uniquely. It all feels so unique to each other, but they all feel like Star Wars. And this is like, there hasn't been a whole lot of Star Wars that is completely devoid of the Force. But a lot of what we got in like the first like run up of the Disney days felt very, hey, Gen X, do you remember when you were kids and you played with the Millennium Falcon a lot? If that makes sense. Like a lot of it was very like, the Force is mystical and cool, but like spaceships and like we're all like space mechanics and stuff like that. Like it felt very Han Solo and not Obi-Wan Kenobi, if that makes sense. And the further we're getting into this, like this new age of Star Wars fandom, more and more stuff is going all the way in on Force things. Like down to like of the 3 movies that got announced, like 2 of them are just straight up stories of the Jedi, and another one likely will heavily involve at least 1 or 2 Jedi.
Yeah.
And that makes me very happy as somebody who's like, oh, Rogue One, that's a cool announcement. Oh, Solo, that'll be fun. Oh, The Mandalorian, cool. Which granted, Rogue One had like all the Vader stuff, and obviously Mando has Grogu now, but when in the lead up to that, we didn't know that. In the lead up to that, it was marketed as a bounty hunter show, which is cool. But me being me, I want my Jedi. I want my laser swords. I want my space magic. And that is in such abundance now, and I'm so happy that is where Star Wars is at the moment, and I can't wait for more.
100%. Unequivocally agreed. It's just this loose, fantastical, ever expanding magic of it all. That's not there to tell you how it works. That's what I want. That's what I love.
Yeah. And even the stuff that might get into the how it works of it all, like perhaps the 25,000 years ago Dawn of the Jedi stuff. Even that, I think for every answer we get, we're going to get answered with very weird questions, if that makes sense.
I agree.
But all of that said, Alden, where can the lovely people find you and what you do, buddy?
You can find me personally at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ on Ahch-To Radio Star Wars podcast, and then on Casually Talk with Ken Knapsack, breaking down Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Willow, Lord of the Rings, all that good stuff. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the developments in that world. I just had some.
There were some big announcements as well for that during Star Wars Celebration.
We got a show went to Greenlight, and other shows in development now, so there's definitely stuff to talk about there. On Ahch-To Radio, we had Lydia Kang on recently. We're continuing the Mandalorian Diaries. More interviews coming up there. And yeah, tons of stuff to be excited about all over. Find me on the internet and you'll see what I'm up to.
Absolutely. You guys know, I've said this 1,000 times, Alden is one of, if not the best of us here in the Star Wars space.
Wow.
And if you're not watching or listening to anything he's involved in, you're missing out. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can also find me in other projects such as Ionized Bastards, another thing Alden and I are both in, a Star Wars RPG real play show that takes place just before The Mandalorian. Eli, our commissioner of Epic Confrontations, the Star Wars Trivia League we're both in, made a very sweet comment the other night during the Bombad cast. Where he said that the Mandalorian, that Ionized Bastards would fit so well into the fabric of the Mandoverse, and made a joke about the Shadow Council in the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, and said, believe it or not, they're missing a member named Castor Angel, and if you want to know what happened to him, you should watch Ionized Bastards. Which you can go watch Ionized Bastards. Season 2 coming soon. But you guys can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandra. Okay, every time this has happened, I swear to God, this clip is getting moved by somebody, and I can never find it anymore. I'm going to move my screen over. This has been like 3 episodes in a row. I feel like this clip has gotten moved elsewhere. There we go. I am putting that there. Thank you to Keandre Lloyd. No, there we go. And to Paco. Or, as he's going by on our Patreon now, Trivia King Scotty J. Rowe.
My voice.
I was physically present in the room when that was recorded, and it still gives me shivers. Shivers down my spine.
I got a message from Paco in the Nerd Academy Discord that you get when you're a patron as well. Where he was like, I changed my name for the first time in 5 months, and I want my new clip to be Scotty. And I immediately texted Scotty. I said, I need a clip of you as Paul Stanley stat. And that's what he provided me with.
Incredible.
Patrons, $5 tier. Star Wars Versus Series. Shock T versus Darth Vader coming out this May. Currently, so far this season, we have Lord Starkiller versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ahsoka Tano Circa the Siege of Mandalore versus Qui-Gon Jinn. Reva versus Kanan Jarrus, and Exar Kun versus Mace Windu. So if you like that and over 20 more episodes of the Versus series to satiate your need for some good Star Wars combat analysis. Subscribe to the $5 tier and you'll get that and some other stuff. $10 tier, you get a shout out at the end of every episode. And I also try to drop early versions of the show on the Patreon, so you get the show about a day or two early when I can do it. Thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you to Alden for stopping by. And thank all of you for watching and listening. We are honored that you have joined us. And may the Force be with you always.
Stop! Move away from the